One day I'm going to come for you and everyone you love. And that just goes to show you, folks, that if you truly love what you do, you will never, ever, ever work a day in your life. Even if what you do for work involves coming and coming and coming and coming and coming and coming and coming, not even coming and going, but just coming and coming, repeatedly coming, incessantly coming, coming to the point that all you can think about 24/7, 365 for the rest of your goddamn life is coming for someone else's family. Malum was written and directed by Anthony DeBlasi, who's done films such as Most Likely to Die, Extremity, and Last Shift. Also written by Scott Poyley, who also has something to do with Last Shift. Last Shift is going to be all over this review. The reason is, this is a reimagining of, wait for it, sit down, get a drink, get a snack, calm down. It's a reimagining of Last Shift that Anthony and Scott made back in 2015. So yeah, a reimagining of a film where I have Blu-rays older than 8 years ago, but nevertheless, the film was fine for what it was. For those that have seen Last Shift, I'm going to wait a bit to really talk about any differences. For those that haven't seen Last Shift, here's the basic plot. There is an officer named Jessica. Jessica. Okay, enough of that. If anybody gets that reference, I love you guys. And also, if you can figure out what MST3K episode that came from, I love you even more. So, there is a officer named Jessica, that had a dad that was a cop who met an unfortunate end, and she's trying to figure out how he met this unfortunate end. What happened? What happened to this really, really good man that met this end? And what's going on at this old police station that he worked at? And she's working there in the Last Shift. Well, actually, since this is called Malum, there's a reason why it's a little more on the nose when it was called Last Shift. Malum's a little vague. Like, why is it called Malum? Well, we find out a little bit right into the movie. But basically, she's working the last shift at this particular place, and it's abandoned. I mean, there's mold all over the goddamn place. The place has basically gone into disarray. And also, there's a lot of weird shit going on, because a year ago, there was a cult that worshiped blue oysters. They've been around, kid, then they've been a square, kid. Okay, enough MST3K references. Let's get back to the review. A cult that was arrested, and unfortunately, well, fortunately for, the people in this movie, they met an untimely end, because that has to be the case with cults. But there are a lot of followers, and a lot of followers are basically besieging this particular unnamed town, and Jessica is taking the shift at this police station where her dad and these cult members and other weird shit happen. And as the night goes on, there's Officer Cohen. There's a reference to the first guy, the cop in the first movie, that was her superior. Work here. We'll move you over to the news station. All calls are being rerouted. Don't worry, it's going to be smooth sailing. Since it's a horror movie, that's not the case. And then bumps in the night, strange things going on. Things that may or may not be there. It's your typical haunted location area, haunted area film where a particular protagonist is being besieged by things that may be there, may not be there, and that's pretty much it. So that's really it right there for those that have not seen Last Shift. Now, as for those that have seen Last Shift, here's what's a little bit different. Remember how they only showed like a little bit of the interrogations and the compound, stuff like that, and you found out more through particular phone calls that the main character had with a girl on the phone? Yeah, well, they actually take a little more time to flesh this shit out by showing like home movie stuff seemingly of this particular cult. John Malum, who was this vicious, vile guy. No, it's not like Payman. We're not going full on nose Hereditary here. But John Malum was a really, really creepy guy. Really, really creepy cult leader. And he controlled a bunch of people. He controlled a bunch of girls. There was a pig there for some reason. Giant pig. The pig might have been the most fleshed out character in this goddamn movie, to be perfectly honest. Actually, that's unfair. I'll have some praise a little bit later on. But they flesh out more of that. They flesh out a little bit more of the attachment that Jessica had to her dad. And we actually, instead of just hearing her talk to her mom, we see the mom character, who's played by Candace Koch. Thankfully, one of the good Candaces out there, unlike Miss Owens, who's a bitch, a rotten human being, and I can't wait for her to leave. But moving on from that, we get a little bit more. even though they follow most of the same beats, the nice thing about this one, it takes its time revealing stuff. And one thing it takes out is the idea that in the first one, the girl was waiting around for a bunch of hazardous waste to be taken out, biohazardous material. And then things, unfortunately, unfolded from there. They took that out, which was probably smart because that ended up kind of being almost a cop-out and a way for them to justify, hey, we have a small budget and we're just going to work with, we're just going to have these people suddenly randomly show up and they're going to call on the phone, they're going to do this stuff, and then it's going to lead to this, it's going to lead to this over here. Leaving that part spoiler-free just in case anybody still is watching that hasn't quite seen Last Ship. But yeah, with the end, it takes the hazmat stuff, or the hazardous material stuff out. Full-on ghost, full-on blood-soaked insanity. And I don't know how much more they spent on this compared to the other one. I don't know what Last Shift cost. If it cost more than $1 million, I would be amazed, and I don't even think it cost that. I think it was probably more around $500,000, I'm guessing. If it cost $1 million, it is what it is. And I'm not knocking. I mean, they did what they could with it. It wasn't a great movie, but it was fine for what it was. This one, I say at least probably has 3 times the budget because they use a lot more blood. They use the jump scare noises a little bit too much, but they do change a few things around. They change around a few things with the homeless guy. I mean, some of it follows the same beats, and yes, there is a certain tie that Jessica has to all the stuff going on. Obviously, because her dad did this horrible thing, and they involve the dad a lot more in that he was kind of a pawn in this whole cult thing. That's pretty much it right there. That's kind of what it was. But was it him? Was it not him? What actually was going on? And from there, we have a reimagining of Last Shift. Follows some of the same beats, changes a few things around. We get the giant pot-bellied pig here. Giant. That thing is huge. Who needs a pig that big? I mean, it was a semi-adorable animal. I mean, pigs deserve to be taken care of. Logan Paul doesn't think so. Fuck Logan Paul. Fuck Jake Paul. Fuck the parents for giving birth to them. Why didn't you just use a code? Moving on from that, the pot-bellied pig or the giant pig was absolutely adorable. And the only way the pigs can be, by oinking and being dirty. And also, there's these strange symbols all around town. And the cult members are all around being arrested for standing up and causing riots and everything. So it's kind of like how the police are handling the Black Lives Matter movement, hitting you over the head with it. At least at first. I mean, it doesn't take too long before we just get to the one police station location. In fact, I think that they spent most of about 30% of the budget, probably with the exterior stuff and on the corn syrup and the blood and whatever. But since they fleshed out more of the backstory, it ends up actually being a little richer in story, if not, again, following the same beats. I'm not going to say this is perfect. I'm not even going to say it's great, but it's certainly an improvement. I mean, when you're going with your own source material and using some of the same dialogue, different actors, but the same dialogue, except for one. There's one particular character that makes her return, Marigold, who was the one that was smoking outside the station in the first one, talking about being part of the, being next to the cultists when she was in the holding cell and hearing all that shit when the cultists did what they did to themselves. But Natalie Victoria, who I just have to say is very lovely. Put her in more stuff. I need to see more movies that she's in. I need to see how good of a scream queen or how good she is in other movies. It was nice to see her there for a little bit of continuity, a little bit of time back. And we basically have a lot of characters that they're pretty similar to the other ones. We get to see a lot more cultists, and we get to see a few creepy atmospheric shots. Ultimately, it does end up kind of following a lot of it, especially by the end. Like, there's only so many different variations you can do with this particular story. So that's all I have to say right there. I'm going to get into spoilers. It is out in theaters. I went and watched it because why not? Why not? I mean, if you have the opportunity to go see a movie in theaters, you support the artists and you give them a chance to actually go out and do bigger and better things. And Anthony DiBlasi, Scott Poiley, and the people involved understand how to do some good horror. Again, this is the most wholly original idea, but it's better. It certainly is better and bolder than Last Shift because more money and stuff. So that's all I have to say. In theaters, if you want to check it out, it will be on streaming probably pretty soon. So that's your warning. 3, 2, 1. Spoilers. Okay. Basically, it turns out all this stuff. The story really doesn't matter. The cop, Will Cohen, ends up going absolutely. Well, he ends up going absolutely insane after he had rescued 3 of the girls there. He, 3 of the girls from the compound. He could have rescued the 4th one, but he didn't. It was eating at him. And then also he goes absolutely insane and shoots a whole bunch of people on the day where he's acting really, really weird. And then sometime later, Jessica, okay, enough, wants to become a cop. Her mother, who's a drunk, is telling her, please don't do that. I know you want to do this, but please don't do this. That caused your dad to go absolutely insane. So she's there. The cops don't really respect her because of what her dad did, which sort of makes sense. I mean, in all honesty, the sins of the father go on the children, or however that verse goes. And Jessica has a lot to live up to and basically push away from. She has to push away from this reputation. From there, we get the stuff with the homeless guy that does a few things similar. I mean, he somehow manages to break in there. Marigold, this time, instead of being just outside the police station, is actually shoved out of a well, not a moving car, a parked car. That would have been a little bit dangerous even for a movie like this. And she's treated. Marigold seemingly is going all insane because she sees some of the stuff, because she heard some really creepy shit going on. And in Jessica's father's locker, Will's locker, she finds a box underneath the bottom part where apparently there's dirt at the bottom of this for some reason, and she finds a box with some evidence and a thumb drive. So she looks at the thumb drive, and a bunch of it's like, from Malum, the case files and the interrogation, and the dad started acting really weird after he was interviewing Malum, and sees something in the deal, like, what the hell's going on here? And then later, she's getting called by people, girls that are telling her, oh, this piggy went to market and this piggy got slaughtered and all this stuff. Or the piggy didn't go to market to get food, the piggy went to market to become food and got slaughtered and all that. Because earlier, a couple girls had thrown some stuff on her window, the window of her cop car, like a pig's head. Or maybe just a stuffed pig's head. Maybe just like a rubber pig head with blood on it. I'm not actually totally sure. But from there, she's talking to somebody else, some guy on the phone, a cop that's basically like, hey, we're going to call do what you can. We need you to stay here and talk to these people that are doing this, because if they're harassing you and they're doing certain things, we need to find a way to trace the call. Even though we're being besieged by all these people and all these cultists doing this stuff and we're stretched thin, I'll do this for you. Also, it turns out the 3 girls that were found are also being targeted. And there was a video where Jessica ended up being part of the cult. She was born into the cult. Her mother was part of the cult. And then the mother realized, I have to get you away from the cult. The mother then shows up to explain this. The mother ends up getting shot because Jessica goes absolutely insane, shooting a cultist, gets her father's shotgun after 2 cops that were shot. They're clearly possessed. Get the shotgun for her. And then she goes on a rampage after the dad shot himself in the head with the shotgun after shooting a bunch of people. Would have been weird to do that in reverse. But she's going insane, doing all this, and we get all this blood-soaked stuff, and the girls, the girls that were found that now were kidnapped are being killed, or maybe they're not. Maybe this is all in her head. I mean, maybe there's that. But it turns out that what basically happens is that Jessica is being prepped and everything to become, I guess, the vessel for this Malum demon, the Temple of Baron, this low god, as it were. It's like the song Low by Cracker. Be with you, girl, like being low. Hey, 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 don't be alone, or however the hell that song went. So, there's a face-off with the demon that kind of reminded me a little bit of like the first Doom game. It was kind of hilarious, but it was what it was. I mean, it was decently done. The practical effects and blood effects are pretty well done. But this is where I was like, okay, ooh, that looked a little dicey, but it was fine. And there are these thrones behind her because of this crazy cultist stuff, and she's going insane, and eventually she ends up shooting herself. And all the ghosts are applauding because now the ritual can be complete, and John Malum can do what he was set out to do, which is apparently possibly do a sequel. Malum 2, Electric, holy shit, Boogaloo? I don't know. That's really all I can describe there. Watch it. See, if you've seen Last Shift, watch this and see which one you like better. This is better as far as the amount of money they put into it, and as far as the amount of effort and it's not even explaining more things that bothers me. Or if you leave stuff up to interpretation, it's one thing, but they gave a chance for more things to breathe while following some of the same beats. So I'll give it a B. I'll give it a B. Bravo to everybody involved. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Like, share, subscribe, Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Ritlin. I'll see you soon.